the product. The product in our sector would be, is it the blue card, or the gold card, or the platinum card, and say who qualifies for this card, which was the wrong approach. The right approach today is what does the customer need, and how do I service the customer? Not you qualify for a blue account or a black card, so you should come and get my card. Does it actually meet your needs? Is that really what you want? But no, we have segmented you. We've put you into a different profile and said you meet this profile. And when you walk into the bank and say, I want a gold card, say, no, you qualify for a black card. So we'll give you a black card. Because those are our interest rates and we can get not necessarily what you're asking for. So we, as a bank, as a business, and I think most importantly as a sector, have started the process of transitioning and started to ask ourselves, what does the customer need? And in that journey, where we are based, the mothership for the Barclays Africa Group is in South Africa. And in South Africa, there has been what we call the Kings 3, Kings 4, Kings 2, where we have been on the journey of looking at the triple bottom line and asking every business the question of, what does it mean to drive profit with a purpose? How do we measure that? And I think with that angle, we realize that and it's an old proverb, what gets measured gets done. If you don't measure it, doesn't get done really. So when we started on our journey of looking at how we implement and we adopt the shared value principles, we had started quite a strong introspection, which Shakes video is there, I don't have the time. We had started an introspection of who are we as a business and what does it mean for us. And at that time, we were part of a group, Barclays Global. And within Barclays, the question more and more was around, are we meeting our customers' needs and what does that mean for us? But secondly, and most importantly, we don't operate in a vacuum. We're in different communities, we're in different societies. Are we conducting ourselves in the right way? And as we were going through those questions, the libel scandal happened. Bob Diamond left. We had heavy fines. And we had to change the way we do business. And when we did our introspection and looked around 2010, 2012, we latched on the shared value model. We worked quite closely with Michael Porter and Mark Kramer to understand what exactly it meant. And I think what was very important for us was an understanding that it is not about CSI. It is not about doing good. It is about fundamentally changing the way you do business and understanding that the most impact for yourselves as a business is achieved through your products, through your services, through how you serve the customer and how you serve your clients, how you engage with your colleagues. So we derived a scorecard that we called the 5 C's, which looked at the company, which looked at the colleagues, we looked at community, customer, someone from Barclays here should remind me. How can I forget it? Citizenship. Yes, the work I do. Went into the scorecard. See, I'm so part of the business, I forget myself sometimes. So we, in Africa, had to craft our own strategy that was principled along the same lines of shared value. And using that 5 C's model, which was our scorecard across the business, across the globe, we had to make sure that it was integrated. And when we took a step back, we were in 12 countries. We have over, it's not clear, is it? 10,000 ATMs, 5,000 800 branches, 41,000 employees. And we wanted to create that puzzle where business and society come together. And it's not business closing accounts for Edna's mom, but rather asking the question, because we are integral and systemic in the societies we operate, how do we participate in a manner that is sustainable, adds value, and creates a shared ecosystem where we grow as society grows? If you then look at that kind of view of where we are and where we operate, when a board takes the view that we're going to change our business strategy and implement shared value, it's not a small fit. But it's important that actually for the CEOs or senior management sitting around the room today to make sure that the leadership of the organization takes on the mantle and drives it. It is only at that point that it will actually start gaining traction and changing the way we do business. We looked at shared value and said, how do we craft our own mission statement? You will see there that I use the APSA logo because I think you will be shifting very soon and moving from blue to red. But we asked ourselves, if we are to move forward with the shared value agenda, we need to own it. It has to be something that is not coming from a textbook. We have to interrogate it, we have to understand it, we have to get to a point where we say, this is our mission statement. And we took it a step further, we changed it. We said we will not just add value, we will add growth. So we are going to call our agenda shared growth. So beyond just deriving value for society and for business, we're going to grow it as well. So our agenda was called shared growth, premised on the principles of creating shared value. And our mission statement was we were going to use our core assets and expertise to develop commercial, scalable solutions to societal problems while delivering shareholder value. The shareholder is important. The community is important. When I say corporate assets and expertise, I'm talking about our own people, our own assets that I mentioned earlier. And we looked and said that for us becomes shared growth. But how do you take it further? And I think my primary purpose in today's conversation and discussion is to demonstrate how, as a business, how do you move the shared value agenda going forward? I know all of us have seen the paper from Michael Porter and Mark Kramer, and I've quizzed them. I've attended some of their courses and argued relentlessly because I'm implementing it. I'm not reading about it, trying to make it work. And it's not easy. To change 12 countries, I think our market cap is $148 billion. Convince shareholders, convince the board, convince management that this is the thing to do. And when we get statements from the BlackRock CEO, they add value to what we are talking about, but they don't get the work done. They cement its importance, but they still don't get the work done. So how do you move from the principles, which I think everyone in the room needs to adopt? And please, Tiki will think I'm panting for this. But I think everyone needs to be part of the movement. Not only does it create the right level of sustainability for your business, but it begins the right impact for the societies in which we operate. When we embarked on this journey, we started asking ourselves the right questions. What are the challenges in Africa? And people often ask, how are you going to achieve shared value in Africa? It's just got so many complexities. It is, and there's a narrative that it was the dead continent. And then at some point, I think in the 2012s, it was Africa rising. But the challenges in Africa are insurmountable, and people turn around and say there are so many challenges. We're looking at how many, the corruption levels. We're currently in South Africa having so many inquiries and so many commissions, sometimes you don't even know where to start. And you can get despondent. But I think as you go around and look at what the shared value opportunity is for your business and how you adopt those models, I would encourage us all to start there. Because in the challenges lies our solutions. If I look at how Africa is bursting with possibilities, and if I flip between the two maps I've just shown you, turn that around. that challenge you see is actually an opportunity. And it translates to how we're such an entrepreneurial continent. How within our challenges we see the opportunities to create value and to grow our communities and to grow our societies. So if you look at that map, it shows you how Africa is bursting with possibilities. And if you're a business operating in Africa, you often get stuck in this phase. And you fail to see this. How as a continent we are bursting with possibilities and opportunities, and how do we shift and translate between the two? Then we ask the question, how do you introduce shared value in this discussion? Core for us, and I think if you look at this, it was very important for us. We looked and said, as we grow, society prospers, and society prospers, we grow. We looked at how Africa is bursting with possibilities and how we can tap into those and create value not only for our customer, for our society, but for ourselves as a business. But we asked ourselves the questions, if these are the three principles that drive the shared value agenda, the first being, what is the social need we're trying to address? And in identifying the social need, think of the map I showed you, the map of Africa. There's so many challenges that you could look at and say, how do I address them? And as a company sitting here today, we probably are meeting one of them. But most importantly for everyone sitting here, we live in a continent that has 65-70% young people. Therein lies the opportunity of changing the youth crisis into a youth dividend. Therein lies the opportunity. But as you take the next step, you say, okay, fine, we're going to identify young people, we're going to work with education, or we're in health. How do we do that? Or we're in communications. How do we translate the agenda from just talking about shared value and looking at the textbook and looking at the articles and trying to understand what does that actually mean? Identify the need that you're addressing in the community and the society, and then ask yourself, what are the business opportunities that lie in there? I'm already in business, whether it's health or it's communication within that space, and I'm addressing a social need. How do I then translate all of this to make sure that I derive value for myself as a business, but also for my communities? You have to then look at your corporate assets and expertise. Your expertise is the people that you have in the organization. The reason why they are there in the first place is because they bring value into the company. When you look at your corporate assets, you look at how many, I laid a map for you, how many branches, how many networks, how many customers, how many clients, how many people you have. Therein in the middle is the sweet spot, is how you create shared value. You have to take the three into account. And for us, as we started unpacking it and trying to understand it further, we got stuck here. So if we use this lens and use this as a framework, it becomes easier for us to translate those principles of shared value into actionable items. But let's identify a social need. We identified three that we felt were a starting point and would allow us to initiate the right conversation. The first was, we felt the youth were important. We live in a youthful continent, and obviously as Barclays, across the continent, our customer grouping is quite old. We needed to change that. Some people would criticize us and say we're grandfather bank because we don't attract young people. But if you're not attracting young people, you're dying, aren't you? Because then your customer base in the next 30 years will be dead. And you don't even have one product for a youthful segment. And the reason why we didn't have it was because we were focusing on product and on customer. So we drove a customer-centric model and engaged in a process of trying to understand what is it that young people actually want. And the number one thing all young people in the 12 countries told us was education and skills development. How do you support that? What are you doing? And it is a moral obligation for every business operating in these countries to support education, because that's how we rise up. So we took on the education mantle. The second, as I mentioned earlier, the opportunities, Africa bursting with possibilities, was enterprise development. It was a natural fit for us, but how we approached it was quite different. We looked at it as a financial services, and we're a universal bank integrated solution. We actually looked at how we've got corporate clients, large corporate clients, multinational clients, global development organizations, and yet we also have got the small businesses. So why not create a platform that allows off-take agreements between the large corporate and the small business? We bank them all. But the reason why we're coming up with all these solutions and innovating around them was because we started applying the shared value principles. We started applying lens on our business and not looking at it from a product perspective, but looking at it from a business perspective, a customer perspective, and looking for innovation and opportunity. The last, which is a natural obligation and part of our business model, is financial inclusion. And financial inclusion was a challenge. And maybe you may sit here and ask, how can financial inclusion be a challenge for a bank? Our branches, for example, as you all know, are not situated where they actually provide financial inclusion. They are situated where, if you have a certain income bracket, you can go in. Financial inclusion is not about that. Financial inclusion is about financial access and trying to reach everybody. So we had a challenge there, because you already have 856 branches. I think we've got about 1,500 corporate offices, and they're not situated where they provide financial inclusion. To some degree, they can be exclusionary quite a lot, and very premium. If you walk around and look for a Barclays branch, most likely in the premium segment. So financial inclusion was a challenge. We had to innovate. As Edwin mentioned earlier, innovation is key. We had to think differently. We recognized, and very important, the shareholder value. You cannot go back and look at your corporate assets and expertise and say, how are we going to deal with this? And then look at financial inclusion. Yet will you shut down the branches? Will you change that? You can't actually do that, because it does serve a certain customer segment. So you have to think differently, and you have to think out of the box. Within that, we started asking ourselves different questions. We started innovating. Who's from Barclays here? I was told Anna is here. So we started asking ourselves different questions, and part of which we realized very early on, as we looked at financial inclusion and started innovating and thinking of how to implement shared value. Business as usual has to continue. We have to pay the bills. But we have to transition our business model from what it is today to something that actually grows the business. Our current business model as Barclays Africa, or as Absa Group, as we are today, is not going to grow. We need to shift, we need to change. And I think Kenya is one of our success stories. Because one of the things we challenged ourselves to do was to build outside the bank. Say, partner, collaborate. Don't try and change everything at once. The current model we have is a transitionary process, but for us to catch up, meet the customer's needs, we actually need to look at how we partner, collaborate, and work and play differently. And for us to do that, the first thing is to have a customer-centric model. And if we're looking at financial inclusion and saying, how do we change that? How do we change the strategy around that? How do we actually meet people at their point of need? I remember we had one phrase, service the customer where they are, not where we want them to come to. Meet their point of need. Meet the community's point of need. Don't try and get the community to come to you. In Kenya, we introduced Timiza. started off as a virtual bank concept to look for collaborations and partnerships. In the first year of introducing Timiza, we have over 3 million customers, something we've not been able to do as long as we've been around. Shared value. You just apply a different business model. And the opportunities that it unlocks for us have been immense. We applied the same thinking and said, you know what, how do we attract the right customers, the right products, the right segments, the right thinking? We set up what we call the RISE Accelerator program. It was literally an incubation hub we set up in Cape Town, and we ran a huge campaign in all our African markets and some outside of our markets on the continent, and said if you've got a fintech solution that you think the world should see, apply. We had over 1,000 applications. We were taken aback. 1,000 applications from young Africans who had fintech solutions. We always think of Silicon Valley. No, 1,000. One most interesting one was pay-as-you-go insurance. I thought, why hasn't anyone heard of that? No, so simple. This was a few years ago. Another one was looking at how church members collaborate and pay their tithe, and how they count money, and how they put everything digital. Now it's everywhere, but then it wasn't. But when we looked at it, we then realized how innovation works. It's your own ecosystem, it's your own community, it's your own challenge where you are, and innovating around that. Innovation is not from the Silicon Valley and Apple. People change their surroundings if given the platform, and they are thinking differently. And we've seen more and more and more of that. We also had another program that we called Ledger Link, which worked with the Village Savings and Loans. And for this one, it was our first big multi-stakeholder partnership. We brought in NGOs, mobile or telcos, and ourselves. We said we're going to bank on change. We're banking on change. It was a play of words. We were talking about the change, your money, but also change in creating a change. And I think that was one of our most powerful collaborations in working with civil society organizations, other corporates, and ourselves. We were able to uplift thousands of people, hundreds and thousands of people who actually not only access financial services, but learned to save better. And we created a product we call Ledger Link in Uganda that allowed us, through mobile, to bank and understand how much they had saved. But the point being, as we've embarked on this journey, where I started, you can reach your bottom line, you can make money, you can sustain your business. But I think in this current climate and where the world has shifted, it becomes hard to grow and become sustainable. As a bank, we have been under a lot of criticism. And we know what our problem is. But for most importantly for us, we know what the solution is. And we started that journey. And in that journey, we realized as we implemented the shared value principles, that it goes beyond just CSI, just sustainability. And whilst it is very important and makes a very valuable contribution, and there is a place for it, and citizenship, there is a place for it, but it's about looking at those 3 buckets. If you're not driving purpose and addressing a social need, and yes, creating your own sustainability by looking at what your business opportunity is within that, but also making a close evaluation of what your corporate assets and expertise are for you to address that social need. If those 3 don't come together, don't do it. You're going to fail. But if they do, you have a sweet spot. Start the journey. And as we've been on this journey, I think it's beginning to our 5th or 6th year now, we've taken a hard look at ourselves and said we need to grow as a business. So our new business strategy, after we have separated from Barclays, we had to reinvent ourselves. We have to relook at ourselves and say, as an African bank, who are we? What do we stand for? And I don't know if we'll have time to play the video, but instead of giving a few remarks later, I'll just play that video. We decided that we are, and we had a unique opportunity to redefine ourselves, because we were Barclays for a very long time. And we were part of a global business, and we were a subsidiary, and I'm talking to business people here. So you understand, if you're a subsidiary, you kind of don't have to think much about what your purpose is. You participate in the crafting of it. You've got backup, you've got systems. And once we separated, as you know, Barclays divested from Absa, and we now a fully independent bank across the continent. And we started on a brand change. We changed our brand. We asked ourselves, what corporate strategy should we have? Who are we? Are we a global bank? Are we an international bank? Who are we? We decided we're an African bank, serving African needs. And because we believe that Africa is the continent that is growing, and we want to be part of that story. As we've put these, we've said we're going to have one agenda. We're going to grow. One goal is our business growth. 3 priorities, 3 enabling capabilities. And we're going to make sure that we bring people's purpose to life. You will see that even in the way we run our narrative, the way we understand ourselves, the way we communicate ourselves, we're not communicating just hard numbers. We're not talking about numbers, we're talking about possibilities. We're talking about how we bring purpose, because we have shifted our business model. And it started with understanding how what we do actually is not working. Can we be more bold at growth B? Barclays continues in London with the shape growth agenda, although tapered down. But because we've chosen to be an African bank, we need to make a clear statement of what we want to do. Let's not be known by the name of the unit.
No.
Let's be known by our objective. We want to play a shaping role in society. So you will see that as one of our 3 enabling capabilities, because we believe we cannot achieve growth if you actually are not playing a shaping role in society. And we once again have said, how do we do that? With the enterprise development agenda, it has continued in the business, and the business continues to implement shared value principles. But what we communicate is our outcome, is our objective, and not principles. So we communicate that we want to be an active force for good, want to bring possibilities to life, want to play a shape in our own society. And if we asked ourselves, how will we do that? We will do that through 4 areas. 4 strategic objectives is what we will start with. We will continue, and you will see, create value and shape society. We'll promote intergenerational sustainability. We will drive thought leadership. And we will earn trust. Those are the 4 objectives that we aligned for ourselves. And as we crafted these, it became more and more important to speak of the intent and not the process. And I, as a business, or Absa as a business, and as the leader of this part of the business, it has become very important to communicate intent and outcome, and not process. We have gone through the process of explaining and understanding and implementing what we're talking about. Now we communicate our ambition. And when you now look at our strategy, and you will see Absa as it enters the Kenyan market, we are communicating our intention and our ambition. We're not talking about process. Say, measure us, judge us on these, which is not easy, but is along the same lines as what the CEO of BlackRock has been driving. We have looked at what the Sustainable Development Goals articulate, and found that actually, according to the Business Commission, there's 62 trillion business opportunity, $62 trillion worth of business opportunities in the SDGs. If you look at clean water, if you look at marine life, if you look at education, which is a key focus for us, the opportunities that sit in there are immense.
Because you're my good friend, I
And
can
we
get
have
that
started
presentation.
looking at the SDGs, mapping out for ourselves what does that mean in our 2.0 of creating shared
It will
value.
help me in the tweets I'm doing.
We have moved beyond engaging with Michael Porter and Mark Kramer. We have started the journey of implementing, and we continue on that journey. And as we go country by country, and the team here in Kenya has been one of the most successful and recorded quite a few successes. Timiza being top of the agenda. And Timiza is not about sustainability of the green agenda, no. It's about sustainability of the business. And that is shared value. I think I end here. And as I started, I said one of the big proponents of making sure you change the agenda and you drive the shared value agenda is that it starts at the top. The biggest supporter and driver of the shared value agenda for Barclays Africa Group has been the chairman. Where she spoke last year at the Shared Value Summit, and she kept mentioning shared growth.